is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are going to be doing another Detroit Lions mock draft. And today, it was a crazy one, so I think you guys are going to enjoy it. Let's get it started.
You know, I got to shout out DoseOfDion, man, because it was actually the first time I went live on YouTube. And, you know, guys don't know DoseOfDion. He put out a lot of good content for the Detroit Lions.
And welcome, everybody, to another video. Glad you guys are here. And yes, this was probably one of the craziest mock drafts that I have really ever done. So I want to share it with you guys in today's video. I use the PFN mock draft simulator if you guys want to check that one out. That's Pro Football Network. And yeah, man, this one was just absolutely wild. Unfortunately, I don't have a picture of the draft. Okay, I'm very, very saddened by this. I wish I had a picture of this full draft. We'll go through it. I did write down every move I made, all the trades and stuff. So at least I had that wrote down, which was good. I'm glad I did that. But no, I went to make my last pick, like it was at near the end of the draft. And instead of clicking on a player, I guess my mouse was somehow on like the reset. So when I clicked it, it took me back to the page where all the teams were, and I couldn't go back. It would just keep going back to the same page. So I lost it. I'm just glad I wrote everything down, but it really did hurt. But I do remember it pretty vividly, so I can kind of go through what actually went down with this. And like I said, I had all the trades wrote down, which is great. And I think you guys are in for a treat with this one. Not your normal, typical Lions mock draft, but it was fun. And we usually do a lot of these without trades. Not today. 5 trades by my count in this mock draft. Okay, so be prepared. I mean, stay locked in because this is going to be a crazy ride. But I'll go through, you know, each trade when we get to the pick that corresponds with that trade. Man, let's just dive right into this. Let's have some fun with it. Now, we tried to do mock drafts with different top prospects. And today we got a different one, which was good. I wanted to do this eventually anyway. So, you know, I kind of got 2 things done at once. I got a lot of trades, and I also got one of the players that I haven't drafted yet. So, the Lions' original draft order is 7, 41, 72, 101, 112, and 153. So 6 picks into this year's draft. And we'll go through what I ended up having after the draft was actually over. But that's their normal draft picks. The 7th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select nobody. Hey, y'all know the joke. Okay, so I traded back from the 7th spot in this draft, and I moved back to the 16th spot in the draft with the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals are one of those teams that wouldn't be trading up for a quarterback, but instead a non-quarterback, maybe potentially looking to continue to make a push for this season. I think they trade up for Kyle Pitts, if I remember correctly. It makes sense, right? They could definitely use that, use the 2 tight end sets. I think the Cardinals do that a lot with their offensive coordinator, if I'm remembering correctly. But regardless, they trade up for Kyle Pitts. What did I get in return? Well, our Lions received the 16th pick, the 49th pick, and a 2022 third-round pick. Now, when I got that third-round pick, you guys know what my mindset was. I would love to keep it, but I'm going to use that as bait. If I can use that to get up, if there's a player that I need, awesome. You know, that's kind of my back pocket. I can throw that out there and jump up if I need to. So I love having those picks and the ability to trade those picks as well. But I don't like doing mock drafts where I give up tons of future picks. I don't want to mess up the future, but I think we did good for the future when we get to the end of this video. But I mentioned in the beginning, this was an opportunity for me to not only do a trade and get more draft picks, but also to draft someone that we have not selected in one of these mock drafts yet. And that is linebacker Micah Parsons. So with the 16th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Micah Parsons, linebacker, Penn State. At 6'3", 245, a guy that absolutely just destroyed the pro day with his 40 time. That was a sub 4.4. The Lions get the linebacker who I believe is the best in this class. Now, we do have a film video on this if you want a full in-depth breakdown of Micah Parsons, which is great. The biggest question for Micah is not on the field, it's off the field. It's the off-the-field allegations, the hazing, things like that. Now, the Lions will be able to get more information on that, right? They'll be able to learn more about him, talk to him. So, you know, they'll get to handle that. And if they are worried about it, then they shouldn't draft him anywhere, right? You don't want turds, in the words of Dan Campbell, right? We also heard him say that yesterday on our skit. So definitely go check out the skit. But you don't want that. So that I feel the same way. But on the field, which I can talk about, I can watch on the field, I do believe that he is, you know, in terms of talent, size, things like that. I mean, he is the best linebacker in this class to me because he is so well-rounded. First off, as a run defender, he's probably the best run-defending linebacker. I mean, he just brings so much to the table. His versatility. You can line him inside, outside, strong, weak, put him on the edge. You can put him all over as a run defender. He can set the edge. Well, the reason he can do that is because he's fast and he's got great size. There's not a lot of 245-pound linebackers in this class that are 6'3", first off. Secondly, there's not a lot of linebackers in this class that can take on offensive linemen, which he can do. And thirdly, at that size, that can move at that speed. He moves like a way smaller linebacker. Just impressive. Very impressive. So his ability to play strong side, weak side, inside, he can take on offensive linemen. He can really hold his own there. He's fast. He has a closing speed. He has the range, sideline to sideline. You can put him on the edge. You can set the edge. You can make tight ends miss. Is a pass rusher maybe his biggest strength because really quick for offensive linemen, kind of has pass rush moves. He was a defensive lineman in the past, but I mean, there's really not a lot there. Kind of just side swipes. There's not really much to it. It's just usually like a second move that gets him because he's quick. But for running backs, they don't want to pick this guy up. He's too big and too fast. Tight ends, they also have an issue keeping up with him because he's agile and he's big. So as a pass rusher, he's very dominant. He had 5 sacks last season. Plus, once he gets back there, he has the closing speed to run down pretty much any really running quarterback that you could think of. And with a league that has, a lot of mobile quarterbacks, it's nice to have a linebacker that can sit, spy, or attack and run down a quarterback. That's nice. It is nice to have guys that can move, right? There's a lot of speed in this league, so speed is something that you can't teach, and Micah has that. Box is a run defender and a pass rusher. Pass coverage is where he gets the biggest knocks. If I had to pick a weakness, yes, I would pick pass coverage because I think there's limitations there. But Micah Parsons can surely cover the pass. Now, he doesn't have those interceptions, but he definitely has the stats in other regards. In terms of completion percentage allowed, which was better than Zaven Collins. In terms of really just getting involved in plays, he just haven't been able to finish out those plays. He doesn't have hands. He has defensive hands, I guess you would say. But he's found himself in position. He can definitely drop in his zone, very seasoned there. Again, we have a full breakdown on it if you guys want to check this out, and I can show you film and things like that. But as a zone coverage guy, can drop very deep, can get a lot of depth. The one thing that he is lacking is he doesn't really venture too far to the outside, played a lot of the middle there, but is man coverage. Not a lot of experience as man coverage. When he has it, it's usually tight ends, running backs out of the backfield, and he can do it. He's very athletic. His, change direction can be a little bit clunky, but he can definitely man cover when he was asked to do it. I wouldn't line him up against a slot receiver very often. I don't think that would be the wise choice because you'd probably have him grabbing a little bit there. But with his athleticism, you believe that you could maybe make him better as a man coverage guy. Right now, I'd probably have him more play zone coverage, but you could probably play man coverage with him, especially if it's tight ends or running backs. I have no issues there. And 6'3" makes it difficult because he can clog passing lanes. Does a tremendous job of really keeping an eye on both ball and man, which is very important in zone coverage. I think he just checks so many boxes on the field that, it'd be a great pick if the off the field boxes are checked as well, especially if we can move back to number 16. So we get Micah Parsons, my favorite linebacker in this class, on the field. And we're on to the second round. So now we got the linebacker out of the way. We're on to the 41st pick in the 2021 NFL Draft. And with the 41st pick in 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Trayvon Merrick, safety out of TCU. Now here's the thing, right? We say this all the time. You got to just pick who the simulator lets you to pick, all right? If the simulator is allowing that player to fall, you can't not take him. What am I supposed to do, not take him? Now, some simulators are messed up. But guys fall. There's only so many picks. Certain guys can fall. Merrick doesn't fall very often to me, but this time he did. This is the safety out of TCU who I believe is the best safety in this class. Now, some will argue different guys, and that's fine. I think for the Lions, Merrick checks as a perfect scheme fit right away, which ultimately sells me that if he fell to the second round, I would be definitely all in for being able to take a guy like Trayvon. See, Trayvon Merrick brings a lot to his game, but to me, I think it's the scheme fit that also sells me. He played in a TCU defense, which was a heavy split safety coverage, which is what the Lions are going to run next season, as we were told that. But also, he brings the versatility. Now, some guys are tweeners, some guys are versatile, and he's versatile on another level because he can slide into the box, play like a linebacker. He's got good size, good height, but he can hit. The guy had 33 bench press reps. 33. I know offensive linemen, defensive linemen, they had nowhere near that. 33 for a guy that's 200, barely over 200 pounds to have 33 bench press reps kind of tells you all you need to know. Getting smacked. Not a great run defender, but a very good run defender. In coverage, he can man up against slot receivers, which when I look at our safety group, how many guys who have confidence can do that? Can they develop in that? Yes. But, Walker will, they're very hit and miss there. I don't think Dean Marlowe can do that. I didn't even see him do it with Buffalo. I think he can drop free safety. I don't think he can do that. So I really wonder when you're talking about a defense that's likely going to run, a lot of nickel sets, going to have a lot of safeties playing in the box, just like the Saints did last season. And if we're going to do that, you got to have a guy that can hold that down. And yeah, Walker Will could develop into that role. If nothing else, I think Will could have that probably role next season. But Merrick can slide right in there, and he can play deep safety. His range will come into question. He did run a 4.5 40, but he does show playmaking in the back end. His length is huge because he shoots down on things and he get very involved as pass breakups. There's really not a lot of red flags about Merrick. There's not a lot of things that I can say, well, this is bad. This is an issue here. There's really not a lot of that. He's not an elite athlete, but man, can he play in the back end, and he can slide all around. So I think for the Lions, this is just like, just plugging in some absolute talent into the back end, which is just awesome because the Lions secondary is very questionable. And you're talking about a defense coordinator who is a secondary coach. I think he'd be very fine with adding some secondary help. And now you get him with Walker, Will. I mean, that could be a very bright future for those safeties, right? And then you got Dean Marlowe, of course, a vet for some depth there. As much versatility as he can have because of his skill set, he still didn't move around a ton and do different spots because they did play a lot of times and they stayed in that split safety role. So he didn't a ton move around in different spots on the field. But when he did, you could see that he could do it. There's really not a I don't even know if there's red flags in his game. There's like little things that you could critique. I don't think there's any red flags in his game. And that moves me on to our next pick in this year's draft. It is the pick number 49. So this is the pick that I actually acquired from Arizona. But here we go with our second trade. So let me take you through the details. So I was sitting at 49. I said, okay, there's a lot of players here that I like. There was about 5 guys that I probably would have selected here. But then there was a trade offer that came up. And this was from the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know, the phone was ringing. I clicked on it. And the Pittsburgh Steelers offered me 128 and a 7th round pick next season. Now, I know that's not a great return. You're thinking, yeah, that's okay. But for me, I was thinking, I'm very fine with multiple guys here, and odds are they're not all going to be gone when I move back 6 spots. So for me to acquire another pick next season, which is cool, for this season, that's great. I think there's too much value there to pass up. Now, that 7th round pick for next season, again, allows me to use that if I want to trade back into any situation. It's not a great value, but it is some value. So I took the trade. I moved back to 6 with Steelers. And don't worry, we'll be back involved with Pittsburgh once again. We were just moving all around in this draft board. But we moved back to pick number 55. And a guy that I didn't think would fall, and he just kept going and kept going. I was like, you know what? I debated it. I probably sat there for about 30 to 45 minutes whether or not I should actually pick this player because there are some schematic concerns with me personally. I ultimately decided I think there's too much talent here to pass on, and I think I'll take my chances. Yeah, I took Asante Samuel. See, I was sitting there for a while struggling because I look at Florida State, they ran a lot of zone last season. Not saying that's a bad thing, very well experienced. Even though scouts view him as a man-heavy cornerback, played a lot of zone last year, and that seemed to be his best spot, which is not a bad thing. We'll keep it going. But I think also the size is what threw me off. 5'10", 180. And I look at the cornerbacks that the Saints have had in the past. They don't have cornerbacks that small unless they're slot. He's basically Corn Elder size. So those two things really worried me. I was like, would I do this? Would the Lions do this? Right? The size definitely concerned me. But I ultimately decided I think there's enough talent here that I can do it. And worst case, he may be more of a slot for me down the road. Elder's only here on a 1-year deal. Maybe down the road, he becomes more of a slot for me this year. And you never know. I mean, cornerback is very tough to adjust in the NFL. And we saw last year with Jeff Okudah. But I'm talking about a secondary here that needs depth. I mean, we got Dunbar, we got Imani, we got Okudah, we got Corn Elder, we got Mike Ford. I like it. I really like where we're going with that. But adding more doesn't ever hurt, and it takes time to develop. So if we could have some depth and now guys that can develop behind that with a great skill set, I'm very willing to do that. He doesn't need to come in and be a top guy this year. I know it's a 2nd round pick. You would expect him to, but he doesn't need to. You know, where are we in 2022? Okay, give him a year to develop, and hopefully next year we can take a really big step forward. But the size will be a definite big question here as why the Lions could pass. But Asante Samuel Jr., who had 19 receptions allowed on 32 targets, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, and a 46.2 pass rating allowed, really sold me just by the way that he moves. I look at cornerbacks, a lot of them are long, lanky, they can tackle, sometimes they get great production, but how many cornerbacks can move extremely well in man coverage, has those traits, you know, to flip hip, turn and run, change the direction, stay on his feet, stay balanced out of breaks. How many guys can stay in your hip out of breaks? I mean, there's not a lot. That's why we did that video on RODARIUS. I feel like Asante Samuel can do that. Not all the time. He does get sometimes grabby, but not all the time. But for the most part, he does move as well as a lot of cornerbacks in this class, and he flashes some really nice footwork, which I absolutely love. So that's ultimately why I decided to go this direction. Fluid hips. He's built basically to be able to play man, but he's played a lot of zone, which I think is also important. I've seen him play a lot of cover 3, especially cover 3 bail, which I expect to see next season. He could play cover 2, some covers 4, but mainly cover 2 and cover 3 is what I personally saw. But I think there's a lot here, and maybe you slide him in a slot. He didn't play a majority of his snaps in slot. He played most of them on the outside because he plays with the physicality to play on the outside. He plays with the swagger to play on the outside. At the college level, though, that's definitely different from the NFL. So if you had to line him up in slot, is that the worst thing? Not really. I may be overthinking this. There's a lot of talent here. Let's just do it. Let's just do it. But if the Lions wanted to pass because there are some schematic fits concerns, I could understand that. But these back-to-back picks, the Lions secondary really improves in terms of just playmakers. You got 2 of the best coverage playmakers, ball hawks that just, you know, make plays on the football consistently. Look at a guy like Asante Samuel. Yes, a lot of that does help when you're playing zone. You know, you're seeing everything in front of you, jumping down on things. The Lions will mix in some zone. There's no question about that. I do think that he has the man traits to play in a man-heavy defense, and that's what many scouts also believe as well. 71. 72 is the original pick. So you're thinking, wait, how'd you get 71? I traded up 1 spot. I know, you're like, what's wrong with you? I traded up 1 spot to select JALEN Mayfield. I traded up 1 spot. I gave up next year's 7th round pick that I acquired from, what was it, the Steelers? I told you guys, it's not a lot. but it can be useful. Detroit Lions select. Just want to stop in real quick to let you guys know that if you guys are ever interested in investing in our favorite sports teams like us as Detroit Lions fans, you guys should check out www.symbol.app. It's a way to basically invest in your favorite sports team and earn a payout when your team wins. So for us as Detroit Lions fans, now we can finally invest in something that we actually know. And with the draft coming up very soon, this is your opportunity to get involved. You guys can use promo code DOD for a $10 bonus deposit. Check it out. JALEN Mayfield, offensive tackle out of Michigan. I usually don't draft tons of Michigan guys in these mocks, but today I got one, and this is 6'5", 326 tackle on Michigan. I felt like there was a lot of talent falling in this board. This was like an awesome board, and that's why I really just want to share it with you guys. So I got JALEN Mayfield. Now, JALEN Mayfield played mainly right tackle for Michigan. Snapped a few times left tackle, but he's mainly a right tackle, which is great for the Lions because if we're going to draft tackle, he's probably going to play right tackle next season anyways, which is fine with me, so he can slide right in there. But as I've stated before, when I look at this tackle class, I think there's a lot of guys with high upside, a lot of them. And a lot of them that could benefit you in 2022. But how many tackles can come in, step in day one, and be guaranteed surefire he's going to start our tackle for us next season? I think you're looking a lot first round there. Maybe early second for certain guys. And at this point in the third round, I don't know if he would start next season for us. But again, we have Terrell Crosby's contract up, and Big V has an out after this season. So this allows the Lions some leverage. But Mayfield doesn't only play tackle. He can also play guard. Now, he only did play tackle, but he could slide to guard. When you take in consideration his power, his size, and his arm length is kind of like Rashawn Slater, maybe a little bit longer, he could easily plug into guard. Some people believe that could be a spot. But he projects as the right tackle, as that's what he did against Michigan. At Michigan, he played against some good talent there in Michigan. He does lack slightly some experience, didn't have tons of snaps. There are a few building blocks that I really like here. Power-wise, he's got a lot of power because of his size. I mean, he's definitely really well built throughout his entire frame. But I also think here he's got some athleticism and agility for his size that allows him to be an athletic tackle that can definitely help in zone blocking schemes. And that's what I expect to see a majority of the time, is that's what Anthony Lynn has done in the past with Buffalo. So give the guy that excels as a zone blocking scheme, really good leverage, really good angles. That works for me. And then a guy with athleticism to help out on play extra rollouts. You know, if I need to get outside, that works for me as well. Now, there are some clear things he needs to clean up. His hand placement can be bad. It can be very high. His length, like I said, is not incredible. So if you had to move to guard, maybe that's something that they would have to do down the road. But at least he has that ability to do it. I think you start him at tackle and you try that because, as we know, it's not easy to go to tackle to guard as it may seem. He fits the zone run game scheme, which I expect to see next season. I just think physically, athletically, he has the traits that you can build off of. His pro day was bad, though. His pro day was really bad, but he can move. You can see him move on film. You can definitely see that. And I guess, you know, how many times are tackles running a 40, right? So it's more about, I guess, the shuttle and probably things like that. It wasn't a great pro day, though. Either way, though, I think JALEN Mayfield here was one of those picks where usually doesn't fall this far. Gives me a guy that could start right tackle next season, could take that role from Crosby. If he can't, though, maybe he starts there next year, when he gets a year to develop, really, you know, try to clean up his technique. Good Hank Fraley as an offensive line coach, learning from some vets. And it also gives you depth because if injuries happen, you got guys that can slide in. Plus, I already know he could probably slide to guard next level, maybe even be better there. The thought behind him is he has a very high ceiling that just needs to clean some things up, and that's how I feel with a lot of tackles. There's not many tackles past first round that I would say comfortably, yeah, that guy's going to start first year. Mayfield for a 320-pounder is just ridiculously explosive, especially off the snap, and he's mobile too, I guess, against Ohio State, which I thought was very important for JALEN Mayfield. The technique that is questioned is usually his hands. The footwork, the athleticism is all there, and of course the size and strength. Definitely be able to be a tackle at the next level. This to me is probably a first round talent. I thought Mayfield would go first round. So the fact that he fell this far, it was worth trading up one pick for. This is where the craziness starts to happen. So we did the JALEN Mayfield pick. Bear with me through this. I know this is going to sound weird. So our next pick originally is pick number 101, right? So we got about 30 picks to wait. Okay, that's fine. But I was like, okay, I want to trade up. I want to get like 15 spots up here because there was a couple of receivers I was eyeing. And I was like, I kind of want to go up like 15 spots here. I just want to make sure I don't lose them. I have not drafted a receiver yet. And there's a couple that I really like that we've done videos on recently. So like, let me try to go up there. Moved up to the 72nd pick, which is the very next pick. So I have back-to-back picks. I gave up pick 101, 112, and that 2022 third that I acquired from Arizona. So gave up 2 picks this season, gave up that Cardinals pick, which again, okay, I give the Cardinals pick. It wasn't a pick that, you know, we're losing anything on future. It was the pick that I just acquired from the Micah Parsons trade. So I give them that. I move up to the 72nd pick. I got back-to-back picks in this year's class. But then I was sitting there thinking to myself, I'm like, you know what? I think I'm very willing to move back a couple spots. I don't need to be this high. I can move back a few spots with the receiver that I really like after second thought. So I decided then to trade back from 72, but not back to 101. I wanted to get like in the middle. So I got to 87. So I think this was the Steelers again. I trade back to 87. What do I get in return? So going back here, so after going from 101 to 72, now 72 to 87. So basically I went up about 15 spots in the draft. I lost the third. I lost those 2 picks behind me. But I also received in return now a 2022 4th round pick. Now that pick kind of replaces the 3rd round pick, not completely, but it kind of does. And Pittsburgh, I don't know what they're going to look like this next season, so I think they could struggle. So I think that could be a pretty high 4th round pick. So I took that pick from Pittsburgh. I also took their 216th pick. Not a huge return, but it was solid. I did lose my comp pick and a 4th round pick, but I received a late round pick and I got a future pick back. So some weirdness there. Now we're picking at 87. You probably think I'm crazy because it was crazy. So with the 87th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select wide receiver TYLAN Wallace out of Oklahoma State. All right, now this is one of those receivers that I was eyeing here, and I was like, I don't want to go too far back because I don't want to miss out and be in a position where I'm taking a receiver that I don't know if I love. I definitely like some developmental guys, but I really would like to have one impact receiver, and I think Wallace can definitely be that. Why? Because that's all he was at Oklahoma State. At 6 foot 194, this is one of the most productive receivers in the country year in and year out. Last season, 59 receptions for nearly 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns. Definitely some good production there. Can play inside, outside, but he is a vertical threat. I mean, that's what he is. And I think there's a scheme fit there for a guy like TYLAN Wallace. I thought it was good size, maybe not great, but good size for a guy who can play outside, inside. Some people think he'll be better at slot. Don't worry, I'll address it a little bit later. But even if he has to move the slot, the fact is this guy is a vertical threat that can stretch the field. He's got good speed, good deep speed. I mean, he's got 43 contested catches in the last 3 years. You throw it up to him, he's going to make a play on the football. He had 13 last season, which was tied for 4th. He's just great at tracking the football in the air. He has a tremendous release. Makes me think of a guy that could definitely play on the outside for sure. The only issues with this game is he hasn't really shown production in the mid-range slot. You're probably going to see more of that. But I think with his release, I don't worry about him getting off the line of scrimmage really quick. And maybe that's because he ran track. I just kind of put that together. Is that because he was in track? I don't know. Maybe that's why. Regardless, it's a good release. And he's got really nice footwork off that release. So on quick hitters, it can get him a lot of separation. So the deep threat, quick hitters, I like him there, which can be really nice. It's just the intermediate routes he needs to work on. And I really don't worry about his ability as a deep threat. I think there's good enough speed here. There's good ball tracking skills where slot could be in play for him at the next level. Some believe he'll be way better there, and that's fine for me if that's what he's going to be. He's a little bit big. You could say he's big for a slot, but you look at a guy like Cooper Kupp, that's a big slot. So to give Goff a weapon like that, I think is perfectly fine, and I think he can impact on both inside and outside, maybe depending on matchups. Physically wise, he can be thrown off sometimes by outside corners, which is why, again, depending on matchups, you can play him outside or inside. So I do like that. I thought TYLAN Wallace was just a playmaker. I really liked him after watching film on him when I did that mid-rounds video, and I was like, yeah, I like this guy. I wanted to get St. Brown, I did, but he went before even I trade back to 87. I was hoping I would get him, but after he was off the board, I was like, okay, I'll trade back. So I decided to move back to the 87th spot. I got TYLAN Wallace, who I also really like. It's us pretty far back in the draft, right? I mean, we're looking at a pretty far back pick in the draft at this point. What are we looking at? We're looking at 128. No, we're not. You know why? Because I decided to trade back. So we get on the clock at 128. I filled out a lot of things I felt like I needed because I knew there was going to be a break, right? I mean, we had 40 picks, so I wanted to get a receiver that I really liked that I felt like could give us day one impact. I got our linebacker, I got our safety, I got our corner, I got our receiver, I got our tackle. Okay, all the main positions I wanted to fill with legit talent, we all got in the top 87 picks. I love it. Now it's where we get depth pieces. So we're sitting there at 128, and I'm just kind of scrolling through. I'm like, you know what? I don't think I need to make a pick here. I think I can move back a couple spots. And that's exactly what I did. So I moved back from 128 to 140. In return, I received the 245th pick and the 254th pick. So I got 2 picks for this season. I know they're late, but at this point, I have all the players that I feel like I needed, to have early in terms of positions I really wanted to fill. But now I'm sitting here saying, okay, I want developmental guys. The more picks I can have, the better. And that's exactly what I did. So I go back to 140. So 87, 140, big gap. But at 140, with the 140th pick in the NFL draft, I like to get different players. But unfortunately, today, we got the same one. I wouldn't even say unfortunately, because I really like this player after doing that video. I select RODARIUS Williams, cornerback out of Oklahoma State. I just felt like the value was too good here to pass up for RODARIUS. I know it wasn't, okay, I know I already got Asante Samuel, but to me, RODARIUS is just too good not to choose. We did a video on him as well if you want to see a breakdown, but RODARIUS, man, can play, man. I think he's one of the best man coverage corners day one in this class. 6'1", 190, extremely well at the Lions because he's going to play man-heavy scheme, which I expect the Lions to play, what everybody's kind of expecting us to play next year. He has played in some zone. I think he definitely plays really well when things are behind him. He plays well there, sometimes late to jump on things. Like I said, there's a full breakdown, but in 9 games last season, he only gave up 10 receptions. 10 receptions in 9 games. Guys, don't target him. So when you look at his stats, you see, oh, one interception. You have to realize people don't throw the football his way. 10 receptions on 21 targets. It's phenomenal what he can do as a man coverage corner. Not saying the best competition there in the Big 12, but Big 12 is known for scoring a lot of points, and he held his own as a man coverage corner on the outside. Now, again, not great size, but it's closer in size to what I think the Saints will be looking for here. So this was interesting, but this is a guy that I really like. Man coverage, I just feel like he's just so crisp with his ability to stick and just stick out of breaks. He sticks out of breaks better than a lot of corners I've seen in this class without being grabby. He does it all with his footwork, okay? He's a technician. It's beautiful to watch. It really is. And this past season, I think he really improved, turning his head around, getting involved when the pass was up in the air. As soon as he got a tough receiver, turn around, made a play on the ball. In the past, apparently that was an issue with him. That's why he didn't have interceptions. Last year, clearly improved on that. Extremely comfortable, man. And he can play cover 3 zone, which I think we also need to have a guy that can do that as well. At point of attack, he can be aggressive, shoot down, make some plays there. I think his awareness is phenomenal. This guy was legit last year, and he improved a lot as a run defender. I still don't love him as a run defender. I don't love him there, but he did improve. And I think he can tackle. He just doesn't always show the willingness. So someone needs to get in this guy's head and be like, hey, you need to start biting some kneecaps, because if you do that, you could be a very legit steal for us. So I went with RODARIUS Williams here. Really, the only concerns you got to have here is just his tackling. Not a tons of plays, but like I said, people don't throw the ball his way, and I'm fine with that. Hey, if they don't want to throw it his way, don't throw it his way. But I feel like he's one of the best man coverage guys in this class, and he's played for a long time. He is going to be 25 years old, so he's like a vet rookie, which is very strange. But it means he's probably going to translate it really fast, and he's had so much experience and seasoning that you can just see the development year after year. And yes, last year, he went from looking like a day 3 undrafted to day 2 pick, and I got him at 140. So yes, sir. That moves us on to our next pick in the draft, and that pick is at 153. This is an original pick. The 153rd pick in the 2021 NFL Draft. The Detroit Lions select who I felt was the best player available on the board. I usually don't do this. Defensive lineman, Marvin Wilson, Florida State. Yeah, we got 2 Florida State guys in here. We got the corner and now the defensive tackle. Okay, I usually don't draft defensive linemen. I like our defensive lineman depth. But when I see Marvin Wilson chilling there, and I say to myself, I like his ability to pass rush at DT, and I start to roll through the Lions roster. Let's roll through with me, right? Nick Williams. Okay, kind of noticed a pass rush guy. Wasn't great at last season. Got the pay cut. Got 1 year left on his deal. Odds are he's probably not going to be back next season. Michael Brockers, great player. More of a run defender, though. Opens up pass rushers, more of a run defender. Okay, cool. Plays the inside and can play on the outside. I continue to go through. Pennicini, definitely improved. Improved as a pass rusher. I didn't think he'd be that good as a pass rusher last season. Gave us some impact back there, but still a run defender. All right. I think Jayshon Cornell is going to be a really nice pass rusher on third downs. I'm excited to see him, but we still haven't seen him yet, right? So I don't think it's a bad thing to have an interior pass rusher. Even Deshaun Hand really hasn't been much of a pass rusher since rookie season. First off, he barely can find the field. Secondly, he's been more of a run defender. So when I look at the interior there, a lot of nice pieces, guys that could be around for a while. But aside from Cornell, how many of these guys have upside as a very good pass rusher? I don't think many. So I said, okay, Marvin Wilson's there. You can't hurt to have too many pass rushers. I think the Lions want to attack. I think they want to get after it. That's what Micah brings. You know, they want to get after it next season. They've added, Charles Harris to the edge position. So I went with DT instead, and I got myself a pass rusher. And this is Marvin Wilson. Again, at 6'4", 300 pounds. Marvin Wilson slimmed down. I think it was for his pro day. He slimmed down to about 300. I know it's a little bit on the bigger side, but Marvin Wilson's a pass rusher through and through. Now, last season, he was not very productive, and that's really pushed the stock down. Some people still say he's the best defensive tackle in this class. So think about me getting him at 153 for a second. What? But Marvin Wilson, man, I mean, he can pass rush. Here's the issue. Last season, they played a 3 defensive lineman set, which was like 2 gapping. And while he has the size to do it, wasn't effective as pass rusher. And that defensive front is not built for defensive linemen to have a lot of stats. It's built for linebackers to stack up and rack up stats. In a 2 gapping defensive scheme, you're not going to be as productive as a defensive lineman. So this pick is definitely going for a fit of a 4-3 attacking defense, or even just an even front. Just an even front, even in a 3-4. Just an attacking defense that allows him to get after more 1-gapping opportunities. And that's where he was dominant. He was dominant like that for Florida State. So, yeah, I mean, he may be able to fit because of his size in a 3-4, a 2-gapping scheme. Definitely more dominant when it's 1-gap opportunities. So when I look at Marvin Wilson, when he was in a 4 defensive lineman set, which I expect the Lions to run more next season, Then he's getting after the quarterback. And at that point, he was dominant. Okay, back-to-back in huge grades. The guy is just a very strong upper body, can throw you off. And he's got a flux of pass rush moves. I mean, he can mix in so many different things from the interior. I view him as a rotational defensive lineman that can really help on passing downs for sure, but can just get after the quarterback when you need a guy. Now, he did show times to get exhausted. He would get tired. But for me, that's fine. You're going to rotate, especially early in your career. Down the road, yeah, you'll probably want to play more. But, you know, you'll rotate early. We have guys. We just need you to give us a little something, you know, off the sideline when guys get tired. Having depth there is key, and we've seen depth is very important to have at every position. So I just got a legitimate pass rushing defensive tackle here, and he's no slouch as a run defender either, but clearly he's much better in an attacking 4-3 defense, which I expect the Lions to be next season. You guys see the scheme fits here? Split zone safeties, we got those. Linebackers in attacking defense, we got that. Now you get a defensive line that's built for an attacking 4-3. Come on, man. But our draft isn't over yet, as usually is, because we have these 3 late round picks that we acquired, 216, 245, and 254. So with the 216th pick in 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select receiver Dez Fitzpatrick out of Louisville. So this is a player that we looked at when we talked about, I think it was late round receiver prospects. Dez Fitzpatrick is 6'2", 202. I actually put this into Discord because I wasn't sure what it takes here. Because Dax, I think Milne was still available as well at BYU. But I decided, okay, I got TYLAN Wallace, who I really like Wallace, but he could be, you know, pushed in a slot in certain games. I think Fitzpatrick can definitely play the outside. And he, again, like TYLAN Wallace, can be a very vertical deep threat. Has the size and has the speed. Some people list him at 210, 80-inch wingspan. He was dominant earlier in his career, but it never came into, hey, he's going to be dominant because he was really overshadowed by Tutu Atwell. He also lost Lamar Jackson. Never really dominated like some people thought he could after early in his career and became a top wide receiver prospect. But there's still the size and speed to his game, and there's really not tons of red flags here. He tracks the ball extremely well when you throw it up. He does have the deep speed and, of course, the size to be a vertical threat on the outside. Very willing to go over the middle and make some plays, take some hits. So I like that as well, especially play action crossers. You know, you're going to have guys that can do that. His tracking ability, though, is the biggest thing to me. Plus, I love that he can block. He tries to block. That's huge. Too many receivers don't try to block. He tries to block, which I think the Lions will love as well. This maybe elite athleticism, but he's very well-rounded, and he has the size and speed that you want, especially this late in the draft, that you can easily build on top of. He did kind of go in and out. He wasn't consistently productive with Louisville. Sometimes he got really quiet. And but I think there's a lot of talent. I think there's a lot of skills and things you can build off of here. We're talking about a player that can even impact year one. I mean, you're talking 3rd or 4th receiver. And now the receiver group for the Lions is looking pretty solid. I mean, you got Brashad Perriman, Tyrell Williams, which is good on the outside for now. But then you have TYLAN Wallace, which can play outside and slot. You have Quintez Cephas, who I think is going to be looking at a much bigger role. Now you have Dez Fitzpatrick competing with Geronimo Allison. I mean, I think we definitely added some talent here. While I didn't get the top talent in the draft, I wanted St. Brown a lot. I do think we added some talent here. I think Fitzpatrick was a really nice player to get this late in the draft. I think he's probably going to be a little bit higher than that, probably 6th round. But the fact that I was able to land him here, I mean, again, no issues, no problems with let's do it. Let's make this thing happen. Just like Josh Palmer. The stats aren't great, but he can play. Pick number 245, the Detroit Lions select their 2nd linebacker. This is Buddy Johnson at 6'2", 229. We did the video. We talked about some sleepers, I think, and Buddy Johnson was in that video. Buddy Johnson is a very physical linebacker that plays downhill style of football. Probably best suited for maybe an attacking defense, but different from Micah, very patient run defender. Very good run defender, I should say. He was way better in 2020 than what we saw in the past. He, like Micah, can take on offensive linemen at 230, which is just nuts. I mean, he prides himself on that. Where does he lack? He lacks the lateral movement, and he also lacks agility in space, which can be an issue against running backs, and it can definitely be an issue against offensive linemen because too often he can't shake offensive linemen and just make a miss. He really has to just take them on. But because of his play style, he plays big enough to be a Mike, but I also think really anywhere as an inside linebacker. You could probably play him on a strong side as well. His pro day blew me away. I have no idea how he ran that fast. He looks way slower on tape. Got very tight hips. He's very stiff. And his sideline to sideline movement is very limited, which makes him limited in coverage. I don't know how high the upside is here, but I can say the pro day blew me away. Special teams impact, which you could always like to have. Anybody that can impact your team in the 7th round is great. I think he gives you that. Jalen Reese maybe could be looking at more defensive time, so it's good to have that. I think, again, a scheme fit here. And I think finally what he gives you is an early down defender that can just shut down, that can really help you against the run and just be a very smart player. He was a leader of that defense. People looked up to him as a leader on that defense, and the Lions really could use a guy like that, you know, some guy with that kind of character. So that's why I took Buddy Johnson here. Like I said, agility, I don't know how much he's going to have as an upside in coverage, but maybe as an early down player that can give you special teams impact in the 7th round, I'll take it. The final pick for the Detroit Lions in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Dark Forest. Hopefully I'm saying your name right. Dark Forest. It's an A. It's not Derek, right? Or is it Derek? I don't know. That's a cool way to spell it. I think it's Dark, though. Out of Cincinnati. Now, I struggled here. Brown Jackson, who we did the sleepers video on as well, the pass rusher. I ultimately decided to go with Forrest. I could have went with a pass rusher, but I already got Marvin Wilson. Now, Jackson's more of a defensive end for a 4-3. Lions are going to be using the heck out of safeties next season. I already see it coming. And when you look at the safety group, right, we got Merrick now, so you don't need to double up on safeties. There's no guarantee he makes the team, but he can play special teams, which is great. But I think when you look at the safety group with Walker, with Will, you know, with Merrick now, and you look at Marlowe, like, that's great. But just to add another guy to that can fit a lot of different roles and, again, be a scheme fit, I think is great here. 6 foot, 198, extremely versatile. Can play all the spots. He's been a 3-year starter. He played with James Wiggins, you know, the other safety out of Cincinnati. But he's been just a very dependable and reliable safety that's consistent. Not peaks, no valleys. I mean, he's just a consistent player for Cincinnati that can line up everywhere. Again, he can line up in slot. He can play in the box like a, you know, linebacker, but he also can play deep safety. I think the fact that he can play deep safety is a very big factor here. I think we got guys that could do it, but to me, to have another guy that played deep safety in college was a huge factor. Actually, that was his listed position in 2020. So I really, really wanted to grab one of those guys. Merrick can do it as well, but I kind of wanted to get another one of those guys potentially, or I could have went with the pass rusher. Go with whichever one you want here, but I ultimately decided to go with the safety. He's a smart player. He's a good tackler. He'd fit in our defense. Good size, man up against slots. I mean, he could do a lot of different things for that defense, and I expect to see a lot of safeties on the field for Aaron Glenn, so you never hurts to have some depth in there. And again, maybe you got a little bit more talent. The elite traits are lacking, yet he ran a 4.42 40. Really just hasn't been dominant for Cincinnati, but he's been very consistent and reliable. So I feel like this player could definitely make team. He also had a 39 vertical, which is pretty nuts as well, but I see the special teams impact too. So worst case, special teams player, and you got, you know, a couple guys that we've lost from special teams, but now you have Buddy Johnson and you add Forrest, who can both play special teams, gives you some help there. So crazy mock draft, crazy trades. What do you guys think, man? Give me a grade in the comment section below. I know this one was nuts, but I definitely want to share it with you guys. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you, Prep, for watching, and I'm out.